get to your seats and silence your phones. We are ready to go. I don't have Dave Butler here tonight to say, quiet. So if everyone please silence their phones. Silence your phones.
No!
Okay, first of all, we'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Again, we'd like to thank U.S. Law Shield for providing us the pizza. And also I would like to thank Fearless because I have to get clearance to bring in outside food. So please be kind to our bar tonight, purchase an extra drink, and tip our bartender, Hunky Joe. So, without further ado, we're going to start the meeting. If we could all stand, if you have a hat on, if you could remove it, we'll start with the prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together this evening to live in the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. We want to make America great again here in the Lehigh Valley. We have a great organization here. Give us the guidance to make that happen here locally. We pray especially for those who are ill or loved ones we have lost. Annette lost her father. Leslie lost her father within the last few weeks. Emily's father is not doing well, and one of our featured speakers, attorney Michael, his dad, is having open heart surgery, so if you could keep him in prayer. Yes. We ask you, God, to watch over each and every one of us in mind, body, and soul, for when 2 or 3 are gathered in the name, there I am in the midst of them. We thank you for our speakers this evening that have traveled far to be here. Bless them on their journey here this evening, and keep each and every one of us safe. Amen. Amen. All right, let's see if our technology works. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, remain standing. Hopefully we will get this to play.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light
what surrounding we hailed
as the twilight's last gleaming,
whose bright stripes
and bright stars through the perilous fight?
all around our tree watch were so gallantly streaming,
And the rocket's red glare, the monsters seen in air, gave through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of our race?
Please be seated. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. I'm looking forward to this meeting. How many of you are gun owners? How many of you, when you were growing up, ever got in a fist fight, or more than one fist fight? How many of you people challenge in the parking lot? Sometimes people come up to you, "Yeah, you get parked close to my car." Well, this is a good meeting for you. How many of you by mistake have ever crossed into New Jersey with your handgun? All right, this is the meeting you want to be at. All right, if I get out your attention, we have a quick update on something here. Folks, if you could please give us your attention. Again, keep in prayer all of the loved ones that we have lost. and for those who are ill that I mentioned in our prayer. And to all of you, I hope you have a safe summer. Okay, so we have an opening announcement here from a new person to the Tea Party.
Hello, fellow patriots. My name is Maria Bonita, and I am an AI-generated avatar who has been assigned the task of reporting updates to all of you regarding our Vision 2030 project. Let me pause here for a moment. You have never seen me before, and so I need to make it clear that I am not a human. I am an AI-generated avatar, and I will be providing updates on our new project, which includes rebranding. So, are you ready for the update? Here we go. On May 12, 2025, active members selected the name Lehigh Valley Mammoth for our new organization. That evening, the board approved a motion to go ahead with the voting members' choice and authorized the steering committee to submit the necessary paperwork to the Pennsylvania State Department. Our application was completed and sent in on May 20th, along with the required fee of $70. The State Department's estimated processing time is roughly 3 weeks. So, at this point, we expect to receive authorization to use our new name on or about June 14th, which is, of course, Flag Day. It is also President Trump's birthday and the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. So, we have much to celebrate in the coming weeks. By the way, many of you know my creator, Tom Hapion. He could not be here tonight, but he sends his love and best wishes to all. Bye-bye for now. I'll see you next month with another update.
You got Tom to make it look like himself.
Okay, how about that? When I first saw it, I was like, geez.
It's kind of cute.
All right. Hopefully this all will run right. Okay, we got an email. I just want to tell you, as many of you know, not only being involved in the Tea Party, being involved with Northampton County Republican Committee, the biggest word that we get is we. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And I always say that. In fact, I got one from one of our higher-ups. I said that we is a difficult word. Switch that W to an N, and it's me. People wait for other people to do things, okay? So we got an email through the website that said, where was the information this last election? Nobody knew who to vote for. Judges representing their constituents, not the law. Party becoming the woke party minorities taking it over. Good luck. That was directed to the Tea Party. Folks, either the county parties or the Tea Party. The county parties do sometimes do some endorsements, but as a person who understands leadership, we have to be careful of who we endorse. We did the last few months invite some of, especially Lehigh County, the county executive, the ladies running for judges. We invited them. We didn't endorse any of those candidates. We just mainly put them in front of you and let you make that decision. During primaries, I don't think as a leader or leadership groups should endorse. If you come to me on the side, I will tell you about 2, 3 candidates and say, I would choose this person over that person, but I'm not going to make a public statement, nor is this Tea Party going to make that statement. Going into the general election, I am straight Republican, folks. Okay? And we had bad turnout. I just don't understand. This next clip tomorrow is June 6th. What is so...
D-Day.
D-Day. I know Frank and I know that. So this is one of my favorite clips from the movie called The Longest Day. You guys visitors? Very welcome. Ron Carson. Like a guy, I'm going to have off the way in. How about your book? Yes, sir. We'll take over. What's your name, Don? Full of Sir Johnny. few minutes later into that video, okay, that guy died. He went up to the gully, he stuck the Bangalore torpedoes in there and he died. And another one just followed in afterwards, and they moved that gully up, and they were able to advance up that hill. But life-threatening, he didn't say, hey, someone else do it. He did it. Now, I know many of us in this room, and some of you, when I make these kind of speeches or like initiatives, you say, hey, I'm in a different age bracket, and I completely understand that. But I encourage you to continue to talk to your family, friends, and neighbors for them to step up and not to miss a vote. Look at what these people go through. Again, I told you my mom survived. They were brought down from the mountains in Austria. They were prisoners of war with the Germans, and they brought them down from the mountain. And my grandmother told my mom they brought them down because they were going to execute their family. So, one day, but what I'm trying to communicate to you is we all have to step up, make sure we vote, and encourage other peoples to move forward as this clip was about. All right. Literature. I thank so many people that this has been remedied, and the remedy is that no one is allowed to put any type of merchandise or communication at the tables without asking me permission, because we are not a free commercial. It costs us money to run this meeting, and we just can't take up everybody's wants and needs. So thank you so much on that. Please respect our speakers at all times. That will be greatly appreciated. Our membership and treasury reports. As of the 1st of this month, our total members, which include regular and associate, are 7,464. Our bank balance is 59,333.66. Hoping that goes up with a good collection tonight at the tables. Our credit line is $24,000. Do we have any first-time attendees here? If you're a first-time attendee, please stand up. Please stand up. Thank you for coming up. We encourage you to return. Also, if you consider being a member, we would greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you. And please let your family and friends know. Our 50-50 in the back is led by Dr. Tom back there, and we always have a good jackpot, so make sure at the break you get a 50-50 ticket. You got to be in it to win it. We also have in the back, under the merchandise, Second Amendment, they moved that down a little bit. We have our 100 ticket raffle. Where are we at, Steve? What number are we at? 90 to go. We have 90 people in this room. They're $10 a ticket, and you can see you have a choice between three facilities. Welcome under the Lehigh Valley Sporting Place and the Boyer. $10 a ticket. The second committee has also hat lapel pins for sale. See them in the back? They are beautiful. He has a nice display of that, so please see the Second Amendment table. If you don't have cash with you, we do have swiping machines. So we can allow you to swipe your card or ATM, and you can get chips, and those chips then you can use to purchase anything in the room. Also, as you know, each and every year I take 2 Boy Scout troops to West Point to be able to offset some of the costs, which include the van, transportation, and food. We sell in the back of their room brownies, cannolis, crumb cakes. We would greatly appreciate it if you would purchase them, and that's why a lot of your husbands come, just to get their crumb cake. And as we put up every month, U.S. Law Shield, the best concealed carry insurance, and they are here this evening to tell you about why you should have that. Is Paul in the room yet? Paul, are you here anywhere? Alright, so Paul will be talking in August, but Paul, one of our new board members, if you go to the to the Lehigh Valley Tea Party YouTube page, he has started a podcast. So Paul Moak, one of our new board members, has started a podcast. So if you're running for anything in the November election, let me know so I can let Paul know. And that's a great new thing that we're offering out of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. Next up is our friend, Valerie Ferguson. Her shirt, she has the vest that has the same color as her shirt.
First of all, I'd like to compliment all of you. There wasn't one person wearing a hat during the Star Spangled Banner, which I always object to, and you sounded great. So give yourself a round of applause. It was really good tonight. Okay. Most of you know me. I've been a fixture since the beginning of this Tea Party. There's a few of us left, and I'm one of them. But I've been sending care packages to our military since the beginning, and I still am. So for those new members, if you know of anybody serving, come pick up my card or my flyer, because you won't know someone today, but you'll go home and say, oh, my next door neighbor's son is serving, and it's free, okay? Somebody asked me today what I need. Deodorant. I'm doing well on a lot of stuff. So we had some school groups that really did well. Then we got some Girl Scout cookies, and I'm packing tomorrow with volunteer, and I just keep rolling. But, you know, I heard on the news the other day that this Michael Moore did another rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. So, yeah, another. Well, I have one, but this is simple, and this is you guys. I thought of all of us. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance, I promise to be true, to the flag, to the symbol of our country, of the United States of America, each state that has joined to make our country, and to the republic. A republic is a country where the people choose others to make laws for them. The government is for the people, for which it stands. The flag means the country, one nation, a single country, under God. The people believe in a supreme being, indivisible. The country cannot be split into parts, with liberty and justice, with freedom and fairness, for all, for each person in the country, you and me. Anyway, if anyone wants a copy, come. I have one, so we can take a picture. But anyway, speaking of all of you, I have a favor, but it's a continuing favor. We sit at tables, we're a community, and then you leave. And you leave your wonderful tickets, and your cups, and your pizza plates, and the flyers. And some of us stay till 11:30 at 10:30, 11 o'clock to clean up. So everybody, when you get up from your table, just make sure it's entirely clean. So if there's papers, you correlate them, you can do someone, pens, you can throw in the buckets, the buckets, the pens, and the centerpieces, just put them all the way on the back. Even if you go out that way, this exercise is good for you. So I thank you very much, and also we're looking for volunteers to come early. Now, you don't have to do it all the time, but I understand there was only 4 people here today. You can't always do that, but if you want to come early, you use this door, you ring the doorbell, someone help you, come. We start at 3 o'clock sometimes, right? Yeah. So just show up and help. Thank you very much, and don't forget our troops. See you next month.
And I want to thank Val. She sent out a care package to a gentleman that's a lieutenant right here on the Russian front. He's in Poland. He's a tank commander. I showed you the pictures last month. He was one of our sponsors. He graduated for Parkland, and he's out there on the Russian front over there with tanks and all that. So she sent them some care packages. I can't thank her enough. So sometimes I provide her some names. Why we ask for donations? This is a business. It's not a club. It's a business, and we have operating expenses of renting the hall, communications, everything we do costs us money. Therefore, everything we collect here at the meeting tonight goes back into our bank account to keep us up and going. A lot of tea parties and or the other organizations have fallen by the wayside because they didn't have the proper technology and communication, nor did they generate enough revenue. So thank you, first of all, for being generous, and we ask you to please fill up the buckets tonight according to your means. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you. All right, now without further ado, how many of you listen to Bobby Gunther Walsh? Bobby Gunther has been very kind to us the last few months. We have developed a good relationship with him, and this morning he had on Shanine Allen, who is here with us tonight, and maybe it choked me up, especially her story about her kids who are here this evening. And maybe she'll introduce y'all. Let her take the pride of that. And let me tell you, she's here because, man, she connects with U.S. Law Shield, so I'm telling you, I hope they get together here. So without further ado, I'm going to let Shanine come on up, and let's give her a warm round of applause.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? Thank you all for having me. Okay, so before I go into my story, I just wanted to let you guys all know a little bit about me and my children before I get into the juicy stuff. So, for all those who do not know, my name is Shanine Allen. I want to thank you all for giving me a few moments to be here. We drove all the way from Philadelphia. I came up here a few times for different events just to come out and support, just try to spread the word, Second Amendment, safety, you know, the importance of having insurance, U.S. Law Shield, all these different kind of things is out here to protect us, gun owners, from what I went through. And there's a lot of people out there that does not know and is not aware of these memberships that's out there. So these meetings are very, very important. I'm here to share my story because it's not perfect, but it's real. It could have happened to any of us, any of our children or grandchildren. It's still happening to people to this day. Years ago, I made a decision that completely changed the course of my life. I'm a hard-working mother of two. I'm licensed to carry firearms, and I travel across state lines to New Jersey without realizing that the laws were different. The one misunderstanding that led to my arrest, I had never been in trouble with the law, not even a single arrest or parking ticket. I suddenly found myself behind bars. I spent 48 days in state prison, away from my children, without anyone to watch them. At the time, Nair, which is my oldest, he's 21, and my youngest is 14. He was 3 and he was 9 at the time. Yes, 3 and 9. After the 48 days I spent, I was confused, questioning my life. How did I end up here? I also spent those days reflecting and learning and promising myself that the moment I would not be here, I would not stay here, this would not be my story. It wouldn't be a turning point. Today I work in a prison. Very soon I will be working in the sheriff department. I did apply. The reason why I went into the prison is to kind of work into law enforcement a little bit faster, to try to get my feet wet a little bit. Never thought that I would be in jail and then now be working in the jail. I'm on pods, working in units by myself with 128 men. Yeah, so I definitely want to get into law enforcement because it's pushed me to want to help and want to show, to show everyone and show others out there that just because something like this happens to you does not mean that you cannot go forward, push forward in life to help others. This is not, it wasn't a dream of mine. I was a nurse before I got arrested. I couldn't go back to work because I got locked up. No one wanted to hire me back because I had that, not conviction, but everything I had with the jail for wasn't exonerated yet. So that night that I got arrested, I was driving on the New Jersey Turnpike on my way to Trump Hotel to throw my youngest a birthday party. He was turning 3 at the time. I went and bought him a Yorkie and a cake, and I put it in the back seat of my car, and I was driving on the expressway. I was 5 minutes away from the hotel. The state trooper pulled me over. I got out of the way of his view, out of the lane, without putting my turn signal on because I thought he was flying past me to get someone else. It was 1 in the morning. No one was there. I had just got off work at 11 o'clock, went picked the dog up, got the cake, and was on my way to decorate the hotel. I did this all the time for my kids because I wanted to get them out of Philadelphia, so I love Jersey. I would go there all the time, get a room, decorate it, bring them up there, surprise. Didn't happen that way that night. I get pulled over and I asked the state trooper what did he pull me over for. He ignored me and told me to give him my license and all my credentials. I said, okay. I said, well, you know what you pulling me over for? He said, what are you doing here? I said, what do you mean what I'm doing here? He's very aggressive. I could tell that he's trying to smell my breath to see what I'm drinking, getting a little bit closer to me. So I felt a little bit off. So I said, okay. I went and grabbed my purse from the back seat off the floor, put it on my lap. As I was digging in my purse to get my credentials, I felt my firearm. Mind you, what was going through my head at the time, because a lot of people would say to me, why did you even tell them you had your firearm on you? Some states you don't have to do that. I felt as though at that moment I had to tell them, because just a week prior, I don't know if you guys remember the story of Sandra Bland, but she was killed by a police officer, and I didn't want that to happen to me. I didn't want them to think that I was a threat. And I thought it was the right thing to do. So I let him know I have my license to carry and my firearm is in my purse. All he heard was, you got a firearm in your purse. So he asked me, where's the gun? I said, it's in my purse. I grabbed my pocketbook to give it to the officer. He pulled his gun out on me and right in my face. Told me to get out the car, took me to the back, handcuffed me, and then he took everything out my purse and then put it on the hood of the car. Tried to open my firearm, but he couldn't because the kind of burster that I had a key lock on it where I had it always on my arm. So I had 3 safeties on. It was not firing at all. So I'm asking him why I got pulled over. Why am I here? I'm licensed to carry. He said, well, the way that you have your firearm in your purse, you're not supposed to have it like that. There's a certain way you have to have it to travel. I said, what way is that? He said, I don't know exactly. I said, well, why am I being locked up? What's going on? So they took me back to the station. They shackled me from my ankles. Both ankles were shackled to a bench. Don't know why he had to do that, but that was not right. While I was also handcuffed from the back. I ended up going to a jail and then getting a TV interview type of thing with a judge, and then they ended up just taking me straight to the state prison, which I don't understand how that happened. I didn't go to a regular jail, I went to state prison. The difference is that I was locked down for 23 hours and 1, which means 23 hours I was locked down and only had 1 hour to do whatever I had to do. Never been arrested, that's insane. I mean, I know how jail works because I work in one. So after I sat for 48 days, I ended up finally getting a bail, and my child's father paid the $2,000 for me to get out that day. I ended up contacting an attorney at the time, but I had a public defender. Evan S. Hampton was my attorney, also Michelle Christian from Philadelphia. We got in contact, the NRA got in contact with my attorneys, got in contact with me, they helped me out with spreading the word with my story because I still would have had to go to the trial. Many other groups, tea parties, everybody gathered. I knew no one, but everyone supported me so much, and to this day, I'm so grateful for all of that and all of the support that I have gotten. Just from the Republican Party itself, because I was a Democrat when I first got arrested. That's a lot. And I didn't get no support from not one Democrat, no one in the city that I lived in. I reached out to them, and they just ignored me. So I ended up getting an interview with Governor Christie. Ended up meeting with him in his office. He asked me about my life story. I told him about me and my children. He said, I don't think you're a threat. I don't even know why we're here. He said, but I'm 99% sure I'm going to give you a full pardon. So we're not to tell anybody, go home, go handle logistics later. Gave me his personal number. They ended up helping me get another cell phone so I could directly contact them. My judge went on TV, started talking about my case. Ray Rice, the football player, he ended up having a case where he put his hands on his girlfriend. He had the same judge, same prosecutor I had. He let him go because he's a football player and locked me up. So the judge wanted me to take a deal for 3.5 years.
What?
Yeah, for being licensed to carry in the state of Pennsylvania and coming into New Jersey with my legal firearm. I told him I'm not taking any deal. So he said, if you don't take this deal, I'm going to give you 11.5 years. 11.5 years. I would have been just getting out of jail at the beginning of 2025. I would have been just getting out of jail, away from my boys. So that says a lot. I know that Jersey has a 99% conviction rate. That's all I was a number, a conviction. So I kept fighting, kept talking, kept going on different news stations, telling my story. A lot of people didn't know that you couldn't carry. They still was doing it, going back and forth. You could just get a flat tire. I ended up in New Jersey. I done broke the law. So after I got my expungement and I got the pardon, Governor Christie, got to meet Donald Trump. He invited me to a lot of his rallies. I even asked him the question. He's like, I'm like, why should I vote for you? You know, and he looked at me and smiled and he did that right there. And I was like, yeah, I thank you so much for even, reaching out. I got to meet Ivanka Trump. She talked to me about my kids and trying to help with child care and things like that. And then I started spreading the word, trying to help out with his administration when he first was in office. And this has just kind of been my journey ever since. Going around talking to people, flipping Democrats to Republicans. Trying to get people to see that you don't have to continue to vote or not vote for people that are not doing anything for you. There is a different time now. People want to see things differently now, and they want different change. And I think a lot of people where I'm from think that they have to vote for specific people because that's all they know. That's what they were told. They're scared to go in there and say, oh, I'm Republican. Now that's changed a lot in Philadelphia. It really has. Silently changed, but it has. So I say that to say that we should have more meetings like that. This, even out there in different locations, because there's a lot of people out in Philadelphia who need a place to go. They just don't want to travel so far. But when it comes to my story, it haunts me every day because I was sleeping in concrete walls. And now I had to get back used to being home with my kids and not being able to sleep. And this is a revolving door. I had to put my son in therapy because he had to feed his 3-year-old brother without a mom for 48 days with a phone call, just not coming back home. That is terrible. So I had to go back and forth with New Jersey. They ended up putting a law, my name called Shanine's Law, to try to help others. But if this wouldn't happen to them, there should be something else in place that you shouldn't just send someone to jail for making an honest mistake. So I thank you all for listening to me. I am trying to get into law enforcement. If you guys know anyone, any place that is hiring for law enforcement, please let me know. I am trying to get a book started. There is a book out there on Amazon that I do not want to promote because I have to tell my entire story and the truth of my entire story. So that's something that I want to get started as well. I do help people get their license to carry. I help them learn how to shoot. I've gotten a lot of different skills through this path that I've been going through. And if you all have any questions for me, I'm here to answer them. I am available on Facebook and Instagram, Janine Allen. You can reach out.
I got a couple questions. So what was the actual charge? Just that you had a high capacity mag, or?
It was unlawful possession of a firearm and unlawful possession of dum-dum bullets, which was the Lvtp bullets.
And you had a trigger lock on your gun.
Everything was locked.
And most important, what happened to the dog?
Oh, they even asked me. So I ended up reaching out to one of the girls that was locked up with me, and she let me use her phone call after I finally got in contact with my kid after 30-some days. They said that the guy I was dating at the time came. He was an officer as well, but he was like a retired police officer. He went and found his car and came and got the car and took it back to Philadelphia. I still have that dog.
Shameen,
Yeah.
what made you get your license to carry and start shooting in the first place?
So I was working, great question, because I was working 3 jobs and was a single mom at the time. I was also bartending. I was drawing blood as my providerist, and I was a medical assistant. And coming home at night, I almost got robbed and assaulted a couple times. And a friend of mine who's in the military was like, listen, you need to get your license carried, and we got to get you a firearm and teach you how to shoot because you need to be safe. You have them boys. And I was like, you know what? Okay. And he told me what to do. And I went and bought a firearm. I had that firearm not even a week when I got arrested. Not even a week. Yeah. Wow. So it is unfortunate. That's why trying to help people learn how to shoot once they get their firearm, because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to carry it. They don't know where they should carry it. They don't know that it's acts out here and the laws change daily. And you have to keep up on that, going from state to state. That's why I'm working with Trump and his administration now with my HR 38 bill that gives us national reciprocity. That HR 38, which we have like 200 and some votes now, it should get passed.
Can you tell us why you got pulled over? Wait for the mics. Wait for the mics.
Wait for the mics, please. If you, we'll take a couple more questions, but please wait for the mics.
Hi, can you tell us why they pulled you over initially?
Still to this day, there is no real reason why they pulled me over. They pulled me over, in my opinion, is because they profiled me driving while black. I had a Chevy Impala with 2007 Chevy Impala, black, with tinted windows that I bought from Jersey, because tint is legal here, and in Jersey, and I had Philly plates. That's why I was arrested. That's why I was pulled over. The initial reason that they said it was for unsafe changing lanes, which was the only time I changed lanes, was to get out his way so he could pull me over. But that's not a real reason to pull, to do all of that. That's just a citation or something or something, but.
You were in prison for 48 days. Was that video the only trial that you had, or?
So no, thanks for that question. When I was locked up and I got out after paying the bill, I had to drive back and forth from Philly to Jersey to go from status conference to status conference until eventually I just kept on doing interviews. And then once Chris Christie gave me my pardon, they kind of dropped the charges and called me and told me I had to surrender my firearm and not getting it back. So come and sign it off. So I drove to New Jersey, signed the firearm off, and said good riddance, and they kind of dropped everything. But yeah.
Why do you get us? We'll take about 3 more questions.
Okay, so my question is, when you decided to carry a firearm, did you go to seek training? And if you did, it should have been your instructors, should have been able to give you that information. He should have told you that. I've been carrying for a long time, and the first thing I know, I live in Easton, so I know when I go over that bridge, the bullets are illegal, the guns are illegal. So do you feel that your life would have changed if you would have had a good instructor that could have given you that information ahead of time and helped you train?
Yes, and the place that I purchased my firearms from was in Philadelphia. They're owned by police officers. So a police officer sold it to me and told me what bullets to buy and told me what was cheaper. And I bought it, and then I signed up for classes there. But like I said, I only had the firearm not even a week. About 4 days I had it. My paperwork shows it. I had it a week, so I wasn't able to go to the class. I already got locked up.
He failed you.
Yeah, very
He
much,
failed.
very much, very much.
So, it's on. So, I have a couple of questions. First of all, whatever happened to that cop?
I think one of them retired, the other one is still working, both state troopers. But when I went to court, they both, for what it's worth, apologized to me and said they did not know that New Jersey was going to push so hard and put me through all of that. And when we went to court, they kept saying I plead the fifth.
They said they plead the fifth?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And they made you, what was, okay. I don't have legal background, but wasn't that an illegal search and seizure? Because you can't search somebody for
No probable cause.
failure to signal a lane change.
Right, there was no probable cause, so why was I arrested? And they threw that out, that they pulled me over for unsafe changing lanes. So that was thrown out. All they cared about was now we have this firearm, now we're in the state. So they went along with that, and I had a public defender, so who was going to challenge them at that time?
So you said Trump expunged your record, so are you now allowed to have a gun?
Oh yes, I have 12. I replaced those Versas. It's my favorite firearm, that's what I carry. And yeah, I got it on my right back.
Can you petition to get that gun back?
That firearm that they had,
Yeah.
I could, but I guess I've already signed it to a judge. And it's probably even worse to even go after it.
I would have Chris Christie or good old Donald J. say, you know what, we need that back.
Yes, because that's a staple of my life, that firearm. It was never used. Brand new.
Okay, one more over here where Paul is.
Hi, my name is Ron Mew, and I'm in Whitehall. I'm recommending that you must carry a pistol. There's a pistol out there, it's not a firearm, it's called Brina. It's powered by CO2, and it shoots think about it, over a half-inch ball. It holds 5 or 6 rounds on I think it's a 5 centimeter of CO2. And you can knock someone down with it, but it's non-lethal. A convicted felon can actually own one of those. And they run between $450 to $550. All depends if you get the SC or the LE. There's 2 different models. And I'm thinking of buying one because I can't carry a firearm in New Jersey, even though I'm licensed to carry one in PA. And it's terrible what they did to you. You know, it's crazy.
Thank you.
So if you gotta carry, if you feel you gotta carry something, get a printer. They're like $500.
Yes, thank you. If anyone needs, I would love for you all, if you're not a member of U.S. Law Shield, to please take advantage of talking to these fine gentlemen, because I said a speech, about 12 years ago with U.S. Law Shield, and they keep growing and growing in different states. And this is something that we need. If I had the membership, I wouldn't have been scattering around talking to inmates that I was arrested with to try to find out who can I talk to when it comes to an attorney. Who can I talk to about, when I got pulled over at that second to say, hey, you know what, hold on, let me call my attorney before you touch anything in my car. I didn't know anything about that. There's a lot of other mothers out there that just don't know. not that they're ignorant of it, they just don't know who to contact. And now that we have, memberships out here, like U.S. Lawships, I think we all need to have it. And we think that, just a few bucks a month or whatever the price is, but it is definitely needed. So, tell your friends and family about it, guys, because it definitely helps me. Damn.
And Shanine, could you tell us one other thing? You said you might have a book out, or what's the story with that?
So yeah, I need help with trying to get my book together. I have a book that I'm trying to snatch off Amazon now because the person who helped me with it didn't finish what I needed to be finished in my book, so I need someone to help me out with that right now. So with me switching careers and stuff right now, I'm just, and then my son, he graduates tomorrow from 8th grade. I definitely need help. In my community, a lot of people don't know nothing about what I got going on, and they don't know how I made it this far, and they don't have people, resources to help with things like this. So I definitely am reaching out to try to see if anyone knows anyone about helping out with a book. So yeah, that's my goal for now.
Folks, an amazing story. Tomorrow, 9:15, I believe Bobby Gunther is replaying her story. She talks about her two fine children over here. I think we should have her back to talk more to all of us because I think you guys have a lot of questions for her. All right, folks, we're going to change things up a little bit. Tonight's coffee sponsor is U.S. Lawships, so we're going to take a break right now, 10 minutes. I encourage you now to purchase your cakes and cannolis, the 100 gun tickets, check out what Steve has there, Second Amendment, your raffle tickets, your membership. If you want to come and give Shanine a hug and meet her two fine children, and also come over here to U.S. Lawships, see what specials we have. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Please welcome U.S. Lawships. Our speaker this evening is Attorney Oliver Chick. Any Polish people in the audience? I know there is a Polish lady. A couple Polish. Welcome.
Testing, there we go. I can hear myself. Thanks all so much for coming. Thank you everybody for coming out. I always like to think the crowd is for me, but as I understand it, this is a much longer event than just my segment. But still, it's always so wonderful to see a bunch of like-minded people. A little bit about myself. My name is Oliver Crabtrick. I'm a Pennsylvania and Virginia licensed attorney. I'm licensed in a whole bunch of federal courts too, and that's where my work really takes me. I do a tremendous amount of work not only for U.S. Lawships here, but also Gun Owners of America and GOA, if you've ever heard of them. So I've had a Second Amendment cases all over the country, really advocating for our enumerated right to keep and bear arms. Somebody probably already went through this line of inquiry with you, but just to get to know you all a little bit better, who here is a gun owner already, just by the show of hands? Beautiful, love to see that. Who here among the gun owners has a license to carry firearms, an LTCF? Very good representation too. If you don't already have one, I'm sure it's already been encouraged by prior speakers, but it's about $20, 20 minutes of your time, depending on the county. It was the case for me over in Cumberland where I live. And it really is something that's worth getting, and I strongly encourage you to also encourage your friends and family to get one too. Because believe it or not, open carry, good to go here generally in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is a little bit of an exception, you need a license for that. But concealed carry, it's a crime, right? So you need to have that LTCF in order to avoid criminal liability, just for the mere act of simply possessing a firearm on your person. Would the founders have been okay with that? I don't think so, but that's the lay of the land, that's the state of the law that we're working with right now. So I would strongly encourage you to at least stay on the right side of the law. So what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today is when you can use deadly force in self-defense in Pennsylvania. It's very important because as we're going to see, so much as pointing a loaded firearm at somebody. There's a line of appellate cases in Pennsylvania, Superior Court, that stands for the proposition that so much as pointing that firearm, a loaded firearm, or wielding a knife at somebody is a use of deadly force for which you must have a legal justification. If you don't, you are incurring criminal liability, and that's a big problem that makes attorneys like me nervous. I don't want to have to defend against that, but alas, some people really get themselves in hot water. So we're going to cover a bunch of topics, really how to keep yourself out of hot water. And one thing I'm going to say at the outset, it's going to be a little bit of a compressed presentation. I want to get one of the most important things out at the outset, which is if you find yourself in a situation where you use a firearm to defend yourself or anything where you might be looking at some criminal liability, I want you to remember two things and do those two things. That is lawyer up and shut up. It's really easy. You don't have to memorize the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments. You don't have to recite anything to the police. When adrenaline starts hitting, you're not going to remember anything anyway. That's just the nature of the beast. So really, I want you to lawyer up and shut up if you find yourself in a really kind of stressful legal situation. I'm going to go through a hypothetical scenario just to set the stage a little bit. And we're going to go through, and it's not to discourage anybody, I'm going to say this right at the top, not to discourage anyone from carrying in public. It's your right to do so. I feel more comfortable when everybody carries in public. However, that comes with some serious responsibility. And if you don't play your cards right, you could land yourself in some legal trouble. So this hypothetical is going to set up the types of criminal charges that you might be hit with just for so much as pointing a firearm at somebody else. And again, it's not to discourage, but it's just to really set the gravity of what we're working with here. So imagine you are walking from the grocery store pretty late at night, you got out of work, and you're heading back to your car. It's now an empty parking lot, getting pretty dark out. And as you're making your way to your car, you spot a hooded figure over in the distance, and you get a little chill down your spine, something's not right. They start closing in on you as you're making your way to the car, and finally, about midway through, they intercept you, and they produce a knife. And they say something to the effect of, I want the contents of your wallet, or maybe your phone. I don't know what they're after these days. People don't really carry cash. But because you are a law-abiding gun owner and you are a well-trained, well-regulated, as they say in the Second Amendment's prefatory clause, gun owner, you, in a very well-practiced draw stroke, pull that firearm out. You've been dry firing when you're watching the news, so you really know your stuff. It's all muscle memory. So you produce that firearm and point it at your perpetrator, your attacker, and he gets the bright idea to make himself scarce. He leaves, he decides he realizes he brought a knife to a gunfight and is better off to make himself scarce. So he runs away. Beautiful result. Nobody has to get hurt. You use a firearm as a technical, I guess you could say, use of force. Nobody has to get hurt, and hopefully he's rethinking his life. But what if I told you this gentleman rounds the corner and loses his knife down a storm drain, then calls the police on you and says something to the effect of, help, a crazy person just pointed a gun at me. I'm scared. Well, I don't know if you're a crazy person, but there's an element of truth to what he's saying. And what happens if the police actually go ahead, respond to the scene, and find that someone matching your description has a firearm, and you're dealing with a little bit of an investigation into what happened? Based on these facts, you pointed a loaded firearm at somebody. I already gave it away a little bit, right? There's criminal charges involved. But just as a show of hands, how much, like let's say we have a really bad day in court, okay? You get convicted of anything that might be levied at you. What kind of length of the jail sentence are we looking at here? Do you think this is like maybe a 1 year in jail type deal? Show of hands. Okay, a couple. I'm hearing 8. Okay, that's specific. I like that. 5. 10. Okay, so close to 10 is the right answer. I liked the 5 instinct because it was a little bit more than just, the 1. But there's a couple of crimes that can be charged here under Pennsylvania law. Very, very interesting stuff. On the low end, you have some summary offenses. They're your lowest grade or least serious type of crimes. I see 2 possible summaries that can be charged here. One is disorderly conduct, and another is harassment. It doesn't sound like you would meet those legal elements, but actually it does. Disorderly conduct is anything that disturbs the public. Is pointing a gun at somebody, disturbing the public? Absolutely, you can be charged with that. The same is true for harassment. It suffices for charging purposes that the person to whom you pointed that gun felt harassed by or felt bothered by the conduct. There's a whole lot of things that you can do to me that make me feel harassed that don't rise to the level of pointing the gun, so pointing the gun absolutely will count as well. There's a more specific definition under Pennsylvania law for harassment. That is, if you attempt or threaten to subject someone to physical contact with the intent to alarm them. And that physical contact can be accomplished with an object, such as a bullet. It doesn't matter if the action actually came to pass, just the attempt or threat to do so with the intent to alarm someone, you have harassed them. And so if you get convicted of disorderly conduct and harassment, those are punishable by 90 days apiece. So you're looking at 180 days in jail versus the scenario right off the bat. Now, stepping up the scale of severity a little bit, I also see some misdemeanors of the 2nd degree that could be charged. They're called M2s in Pennsylvania. And these are punishable by up to 2 years apiece. So now we're looking 2 plus 2, 4. I went to law school, I can't do math, but like 4.5, right? So the 2 M2s that I see that could be chargeable here are simple assault and reckless endangerment of another person, REAP. Simple assault would be committed when you place someone in an imminent fear, this imminent apprehension of an unlawful or unwanted touching. That's actually how the law is written. And again, the same is true. You could place someone in that imminent fear of an unlawful or unwanted touching, not just by hand and fist, but also by an object such as a bullet. And then reckless endangerment of another person. That is committed when you recklessly engage in conduct that serves no lawful purpose that endangers human life. And you might be thinking, hold on a second. Self-defense is a lawful purpose, so how could you possibly be charged with that? Well, self-defense is something that we call an affirmative defense, or a justification defense, or a legal defense here in Pennsylvania. And for charging purposes, it actually doesn't matter whether you have a justification defense. Procedurally, self-defense is most properly raised at trial. Now that sucks, because if you can get charged with something, you can go all the way through your arraignment, preliminary hearing, your probable cause hearing, and technically nobody has to do anything about your legal defense in the legal system until you make it to trial. So even if it's a clear-cut self-defense, clear-cut case of self-defense rather, you can still technically be charged. There will be nothing wrong or illegal or improper about that from a charging perspective. So, recklessly engaged conduct serves no lawful purpose that endangers human life. That's REAP. And they just stack those charges. If you pull that gun and flash 10 people, that could be 10 REAP charges. So it's some really serious stuff. And then at the highest end of the severity scale, there's an M1, a misdemeanor of the 1st degree that can be charged under these facts. And misdemeanors of the 1st degree make me really nervous. Pennsylvania is a little bit of a quirky state. Usually you think of felonies as the things that when you get convicted, you lose your gun rights, right? However, Pennsylvania has a misdemeanor of the 1st degree where it's punishable by up to 5 years in jail. And because of that possibility, it actually doesn't matter if you've been, if you served that time, you could have gotten like straight probation, right? But the fact of the conviction where the possibility is up to 5 years automatically loses you your gun rights at the state and federal level. So an M1 on your record is really scary stuff. I don't want to see it because there go your Second Amendment rights. And the M1 that I see that's chargeable under these facts would be making terroristic threats. Notice that I never said brandishing. It's because brandishing actually is not a crime verbatim in Pennsylvania. The act of brandishing is charged under all of these other types of crimes. So you commit terroristic threats in Pennsylvania when you communicate either directly or indirectly a threat to commit any crime of violence with the intent to terrorize another person. Now think about this. The police arrive at the scene, and because you're a good person, you're a law-abiding person, you have that LTCF, what is your natural impulse? Your natural impulse probably is to cooperate, explain the situation. Hello, officer. Invariably, what people say is, I have a license to carry, like right at the outset. And I think what they're trying to get at is, well, I passed the background check to get that, so I must be a good guy, and that's sort of my my card-carrying member way of absolving myself from criminal liability. Not really going to do much in this situation. What happens if you, being the helpful individual that you are telling the officer, someone came up to me with a knife, I wanted to scare them off, I didn't even want to shoot them, I didn't want to kill them, I just pointed the gun to scare them away. You just talked yourself into a terroristic threats charge. Think about it. Did you communicate either directly or indirectly a threat to commit a crime of violence? Well, if you fire that gun, that would be a crime of violence. With the intent to terrorize another person, you admit that you want to scare them away. It sounds innocuous. You're not thinking strategically when you're down on the ground and you're going through this kind of stuff with the adrenaline coursing through your veins. But that's something that the cops might be looking for in order to get you into certain types of charges. So again, circling all the way back, we need to lawyer up and we need to shut up. It seems counterintuitive because we're good people. We want to help the police out. When you're the one that's the subject of investigation, I submit to you that it's counterproductive and it may go against every better judgment that you might have, all your instincts, but really the less you say, the better. So I would be giving just your name, address, and then your invocation of your right to counsel and your right to silence, because really at this point, anything you say, it'll probably be counterproductive. I don't think there's any case that I've ever seen where someone was able to talk themselves out of charges. They usually just talk themselves into charges, even if they think they're being helpful. So, not to go through all this doom and gloom just to say that you shouldn't be publicly carrying, because look at all the possible charges that can be levied against you that you can be convicted of if you have a bad day in court, right? That's not to say that. It's just to set the severity and the, I guess you could say, the seriousness of the responsibility that you have when you're publicly carrying, to really think about what could happen if you point that gun at somebody. And again, that pointing of that gun at somebody that is loaded in Pennsylvania, not saying that I agree with it personally, but there is a line of appellate cases that says that pointing that gun, even pointing that gun, not even pressing that shot off, would be a use of deadly force. So when can we use deadly force in self-defense? That's really what we're here for, right? Because a lot is hinging on this, a lot of possible criminal liability that you must be justified in order to avoid, right? So you can use deadly force in Pennsylvania. I'm going to go through a lot of really convoluted elements, but actually stepping back a little bit, what even is deadly force? I think is a better place to start, right? So you can use deadly force. Deadly force, what is that? That is any force that is readily capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. That's the legal definition. Seems kind of obvious, but it doesn't only mean causing death, right, or serious bodily injury. So there is that. And again, readily capable. I think that's where the appellate courts were getting this idea where pointing the loaded gun at somebody would be used deadly force because that gun is readily capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. Not so much if it's completely unloaded, but that's a factual issue for trial. So, deadly force. Any force that's readily capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. When can you use deadly force in self-defense? You can use deadly force, and this is all from 18 PACS Section 505. Section 505 of the Pennsylvania Crimes Code, Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes Act. So, you can use deadly force in self-defense when you reasonably believe, that's number one, you have to have a reasonable belief. Number two, that it's immediately necessary. Number three, to protect against, and now we have 4 threat categories, as I like to call them. When you reasonably believe that it's immediately necessary to protect against death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or sexual intercourse compelled by force or threat. We know that is rape. So 4 threat categories that would authorize under the circumstances your use of deadly force in self-defense. You must reasonably believe it, and it must be immediately necessary. One thing at the outset to say, what didn't I say under the threat categories? Property. There is no ability to use deadly force in defense of mere property. So no matter how nice your C8 Corvette is, and you see it parked across the street when you're getting lunch or whatever, you see someone keying the side of the door, you cannot produce that pistol at them and tell them to get the hell out of there, because that would be a use of deadly force if that gun is loaded, and it would not be in defense of life or limb or kidnapping or anything of that nature, right? So you can't use deadly force to protect mere property. You must be able to articulate some kind of a reasonable belief of an immediate threat, death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape. What do I mean by a reasonable belief? What is that? Well, it is not a subjective standard. It actually doesn't so much matter what you personally believe. You could take the stand in your own defense, sometimes not advisable, and you could say something to the effect of, well, I was so scared, I really believed that they were going to hurt me or whatever, blah, blah, blah. The jury might buy that, I don't know, but they don't have to. It's not a subjective standard, it doesn't really matter. It's an objective standard. And what the jury or the fact finder, in the case of a judge, would be doing to find whether you acted reasonably under the circumstances is they would be assessing your conduct against a hypothetical average Joe or Jane. They say that this hypothetical individual is calm, cautious, careful, sane, sober, and moral. It's not really like a legal definition, but it's a good way of thinking about it. This is a cross-section of the community. What would average Joe or Jane have done in circumstances? If they would have acted like you did, congrats, you acted reasonably. But it doesn't so much matter whether you personally have some kind of a belief. So that is a reasonable belief. It's an objective standard. And what is immediacy? What does it mean when it's immediately necessary to do something? It's not next week, it's not tomorrow, it's kind of a Goldilocks zone where you have to wait until you cannot wait any longer. The situation demands it, it must happen right now. That is immediacy, and we usually describe it as like a consensus of three things. Closeness in time, closeness in space, closeness in certainty. So if I picked someone out of the crowd and I said, I'm not going to do that now because we're a little bit compressed, but if I did that and I said like, you know, sir or ma'am, if you wear that hat, when I see you again next week, I'm going to shoot you, you wouldn't be able to defend yourself right then and there because, again, that's a future threat, that's a week from now, the immediacy is not there. And even if we move that, compress that time a little bit, and I said, well, I'm going to go out to my car, and I really don't like how you look or whatever, I'm a crazy person, I'm just going to be with you, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to go get my car from my trunk, even that still would not be immediate enough of a threat. Even if I had that gun visibly on my hip and I was standing in the doorway, still not immediate enough. What we would be looking for is something like me pulling that pistol. There we go. That's you waiting until you cannot wait any longer. That is an immediate threat. So we must reasonably believe that it's immediately necessary to protect against death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape. What do we mean by serious bodily injury? That's kind of a vague term. It can encompass a whole range of injuries that are not even permanent in nature. It just has to be something that causes like a prolonged or protracted loss of function of any bodily member or organ. Kind of a weird definition there, but it's something that you can practically think about as like, well, would you go to urgent care if you sustained this injury? And what would happen if you went there? Would they treat you immediately, or would they tell you to wait and throw an ice pack on it and wait for 7 hours while they triage more important, cases? If that's something that they would get to work on immediately, it's probably serious bodily injury, so that's what we're looking at. With respect to kidnapping, the third threat category that I mentioned, an important exception to this is when the would-be kidnapper is a close relative. That actually falls outside of the legal justification. And I think the rationale for that is we don't want the law authorizing use of deadly force in things like custody disputes, where, like, let's say mom and dad are divorced and someone gets mixed up who has the kids one day or another, and if they could articulate maybe a case of kidnapping, if they're taking the kids away one day, we don't want the law to be authorizing uses of deadly force in those kinds of cases when you can have like a really hyper-technical kidnapping argument. So, and then of course you have the fourth threat category, which would be rape. So again, no property involved if it's a mere defense of property, not Pennsylvania, and as far as I'm aware, not in any state would you be authorized to use deadly force to defend that property. A little bit different if you find yourself in a car and you're being carjacked, right? Because that's when we're thinking about, okay, well now it's a reasonable belief of an immediate threat to life or serious bodily injury, something that occupants therein, but not mere property. A couple other things that I can touch on with respect to making statements to police broadly. It's this idea of selective attention when you have this adrenaline coursing through your veins. You're the victim of a crime, someone points a gun at you, someone's trying to rob you, whatever's going on, where you might start thinking about, can I use deadly force in self-defense? Think about this. When you get really stressed out, are you catching all the details around you? Probably not. And there's psychological studies where if people are hyper-focused on like doing a specific counting task or something, even those people in a like calm, cool, controlled lab environment are also not filtering out all those details around they are. Suffice it to say that when you start getting that stress hormone, the cortisol, adrenaline, whatever, going through the fight or flight reflex, it's very well documented that you are not going to be catching detail as you normally would. And so what happens if now you are being interviewed by the police and you're trying to tell your side of the story? You're probably not going to do a very good job at it, and this is something that maybe later on down the line in court you might be getting impeached for. It's kind of a term of art meaning, well, you said that there were 3 guys, but there were actually only 2 guys. You said that they were wearing red, but they were actually wearing blue. What else were you lying about? That's something that we really don't want to run into. And I think one good piece of advice that we can take from the police, and it's not a uniform rule, but there's a lot of police departments out there, and they all seem to coalesce around like 48 to 72 hours. But if they are involved in some kind of an officer-related shooting, their policy internally is not to make any statements to investigators for that period of time, 48 to 72 hours. And the logic for that is they know how physiology and psychology and all these things work, and they know that they're not going to be catching details. They need to let the dust settle a little bit before they kind of get their story straight, because there will be some things that come back to you after the heat of the moment subsides. So if it's good for them, I think it's good for us. We'll ramp it up a little bit even further, which is simply don't make statements to police at all. We're lawyering up and we're shutting up, and that's really the most important thing we can take away today. I don't know how I'm doing on time right now, but whoops. I don't think we're running. Okay, fair enough. That's really what we're looking at in terms of when we can use deadly force in self-defense. Again, to reiterate, it's really important to know you must reasonably believe that it's immediately necessary to protect against death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape. When you are in these sorts of stressful situations, you're going to have a lot of fight or flight reflex going on, for lack of a better term. You're going to be missing a lot of detail, so I submit to you that it would not be wise to be making any statements to investigating officers as they arrive. What I can talk about now a little bit actually would be what I do want you to say and what I don't want you to say on 911. I think this is really practical sort of advice. So let's say, unfortunately, worst day happens, you have to shoot someone in self-defense. And now you're sitting there and going, well, hopefully I have washoe coverage, maybe I don't, whatever, but I still need to call it in, right? Because the last thing we want to do is like shoot someone and then disappear because now, well, what's going on? So you're calling 911. What do I want you to say? What do I do not want you to say? I want you to give your name. I don't want you to give a physical description of yourself, and this kind of deviates from other attorney advice. My rationale is I don't want you to give a physical description of yourself in the event that there's a little bit of a radio interference cross wire type thing where the responding officer is writing a ticket, he only catches the tail end of the transmission. Who's most often described on police radio? Usually the perpetrator. So we don't want to be psychologically priming the officer that's showing up to the scene, thinking that they're looking for someone with a certain description. They know that shots were fired. I want to kind of avoid that possibly tragic, unnecessary situation. So I would not give a physical description of myself. I wouldn't say, oh, wearing the blue jeans with the red shoes, or the red, they're not pink. And things of that nature. So I would just do your first name. I would also do, your full name, right? I would do your full name. I would then do your location as best as you can describe it. Address is great, 115 South Hanover Street, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. My offices. If you can't do that, I'm in McDonald's in Allentown or what have you, but some kind of a description of where you are. Then I want you to give a broad overview, a bird's eye view, 1,000-foot perspective of what happened, but I don't want you to make any admissions. It looks like this if you shot someone in self-defense. Help, I'm the victim of a crime, I need 2 ambulances. Someone's been hurt, someone's been shot, I need 2 ambulances. That's about as vague as I want you to be. Why am I saying 2 ambulances? This is kind of interesting. One, obviously, for the person who is probably now laying on the ground, so you didn't intend to go out and kill anybody that day, so if they can get help, then so be it, that would be great. But also, I want you to call an ambulance for yourself. 2 reasons for that. One is it starts a narrative very, very early on that if someone is trying to look at your case maybe for a charging decision, it sets a narrative very early on that you're one of the victims here. Usually the bad guy doesn't call for their own ambulance. So if you're getting checked out, I think it's a good optics kind of thing. But also, even in otherwise perfectly healthy people, you get that kind of fight or flight reflex, that adrenaline, that cortisol happening all at once. It's not unheard of that even in otherwise healthy people, they might get some kind of a cardiac episode. You really don't go through that kind of stress very much at all. So you can prevent some kind of a very ironic thing for yourself. You just survived a use of force incident and then just keel over because your heart gave out. If you can avoid that, that would be great. So I would do 2 ambulances for that reason. One is kind of a narrative optics thing, a legal strategy, if you will, and then secondly, just to really get yourself checked out, make sure you actually are okay. So I would do name, location, bird's eye view, overview of what happened, don't make any admissions, so something to the effect of help. I've been the victim of a crime, someone's been shot in 2 ambulances. And then what I want you to do is hang up. You're under no legal obligation to continue talking to 911. You're under no legal obligation to answer the phone after you hang up and they start desperately trying to call you back because they want more information. these people, I get it, they do their jobs very well, they are designed to just draw information out of people. I think once you've given the bare minimum though, it's counterproductive to continue any further, because remember, those 911 calls are recorded, and if you start giving your factual narrative, whatever, you are going to be pinned down to that, and it might be played back at you in court, and we don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff right there. So really, once you do your bare minimum, now we are in rights protection mode, and we are invoking our right to counsel, and we are wearing up and shutting up, as I said. So when the police finally arrive, a couple things I want you to do. One is obviously comply with whatever they're saying. Now is not the time to litigate your case or be belligerent with them. We want to make our life as easy as possible, but also theirs, right? One thing to keep in mind practically is if you shoot someone in self-defense, get that gun out of your hands. You might be kind of deer in the headlights frozen if it happens, and people might actually forget. Get that gun back where you normally carry it. What I don't want you to do, though, is I don't want you clearing that gun. I don't want you dropping the magazine, emptying the chamber, anything like that. You might have this good guy impulse, oh, I want to make it clear, I want to make it safe because I'm not a threat to the police. I get it. Two reasons why I wouldn't do that, though. I would just return it where you normally carry it. One is, well, there could be more bad guys. Maybe they operate in 2s or 3s and someone else is waiting in the bush. Is lightning going to strike twice on the same day? Probably not, but it's always good to have it, like, strategically. And then secondly, it's a legal reason. And that would be, I don't want you to get hit with an evidence tampering charge or spoliation or anything to that effect. So once you have that notice that you might be under investigation for a crime, that is evidence. I don't want you fiddling with it. I don't want you doing anything with it. Just return it to where you normally carry it and you'll be good to go. So that is using deadly force in a nutshell in Pennsylvania, your legal elements, your legal justification. And then we are also looking at the really practical reality of calling 911, what I want you to say, what I don't want you to say. One thing I will also throw in, which is a little bit of a curveball, I don't know how much detail I'm going to be able to get into, at least at this point, but it is that although you have these legal elements for justified self-defense, there is a, lost count at this point, 4th or 5th element, whatever. We're just going to throw it in the bottom, which is that in Pennsylvania there is a general duty to retreat. That might be a little counterintuitive and maybe you didn't hear about that before. You thought this was not a duty to retreat state. There are a couple of important exceptions where that duty to retreat falls away. But generally speaking, as a general matter, there is a general, I'm going to keep saying general, there is a general rule that if it's possible for you to retreat with complete safety, then you must do so before using deadly force as self-defense. Doesn't so much apply to someone's pointing a gun at you. The law's not going to force you to start like dodging bullets Matrix style, so it's a little bit more factually complicated than that. But there's a general duty to retreat. When does the general duty to retreat lift away? When does it lift away so that you don't even have to be thinking about going through that kind of analysis before you use deadly force? One very important thing is stand your ground. That's something we probably all heard of, right? Stand your ground is not a license to kill, like the media likes to say. Stand your ground is a limited exception to the general duty to retreat, where a couple things must be true. You have to be in a place where you're legally allowed to be in public. You can't be committing any crimes. That also includes the paperwork crimes, like not having a license to carry and carrying concealed, so you have to be completely legal, right? You gotta be in a place where you're legally allowed to be, no trespassing. You gotta be not committing any crimes, not helping anyone else commit any crimes. And thirdly, your attacker has to display what is or appears to be a deadly weapon. Hands and fists are not deadly weapons for purposes of stand your ground. If those 3 elements are true, then the general duty to retreat falls away in Pennsylvania. And so that would cover a fair bit of public places where you might frequent. It might be the sidewalk, might be the park, might be the mall, things of that nature. And the second major exception to the general duty to retreat is what's called castle doctrine. That's probably also something we've all heard. Castle doctrine is a very ancient English common law tradition which stands for the proposition that your house is your castle. You can't be forced to retreat from your own castle because what would the world come to, right? So in order for castle doctrine to attach, 2 things must be true. Someone must be making unlawful and forcible entry. So it's unlawful if they have no legal right to be there, and it's forcible if they use any degree of force. Even turning a doorknob is enough force for castle doctrine to apply. However, if the door's already wide open, technically they're not satisfying that forcible entry element because, well, they didn't exert any kind of minimal degree of force. So it's unlawful forcible entry into 3 categories of protected location. It's not just your house. It's your house, your dwelling, any physically attached structure, like let's say a screened-in porch, an attached garage, something like that. It also extends to your home away from home, perhaps your hotel room, things of that nature. So it's your house, your dwelling, any physically attached structure. Also, your occupied vehicle. Your vehicle is your castle in Pennsylvania. If you're in your car and someone's trying to carjack you, unlawful forceful entry. There you go. And then thirdly, your place of employment, but not against a fellow employee. So if it's against a fellow employee, we're going to still have that general duty to retreat. But with respect to the first two locations, your house dwelling, your physically attached structure, and your occupied vehicle, here's something very powerful that happens in Pennsylvania. If you use deadly force to repel an attacker that is unlawfully and forcibly trying to enter those two categories of protected location, if you use deadly force to do so, you will be entitled to a legal presumption that you acted reasonably. It's kind of interesting. So you're already setting the scales in your favor right at the outset for that reasonableness prong of using deadly force in self-defense. Can you rebut that? Can you lose that presumption? Sure, there are ways of talking yourself out of your legal protection, and you can say, well, not going to go down that rabbit hole. But you're entitled to that presumption. And I think what Pennsylvania law is getting at there is presuming that anybody who is making unlawful forceful entry into those types of locations probably intends to cause death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape to the occupants therein. So that's probably what they're getting at. That was a lot to cover. I see I have 20-some seconds ticking down before we have our little brief intermission. But it's some really serious stuff. I don't say any of this stuff to discourage you from carrying. I really do believe that the more people that carry, the better. It's what we're getting at when we look at the well-regulated militia, the prefatory clause. Well-regulated does not mean crippled by government regulations. The term of art from the 1790s and well-disciplined, well-trained. So it's an encouragement for you to be competent with your tools of self-defense, whatever you might choose. And I would strongly encourage you to all get that training, get that LTCF, and then hopefully we can all be a little bit safer. I think we're good, right?
Thank you, Oliver. Can everybody hear me? No. Somebody always has to say no. My name's Tom. I'm with U.S. Law Shield. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And thank Oliver for the presentation. He'll be back up shortly to finish and answer some questions. Right now, I want to just take a moment to explain to you a little bit about U.S. Law Shield. Before we do that, do we have any U.S. Law Shield members here tonight? Okay, good. U.S. Law Shield is legal defense for self-defense. So we provide primarily access to attorneys, such as Oliver, for self-defense situations. They will represent you either criminally or civilly. So if you get charged or sued, our lawyers will represent you. By being a member of U.S. Law Shield, you get access to those attorneys immediately. You call an 800 number. An attorney will speak to you, give you initial advice, which Oliver already gave away. Lawyer up and shut up. And then, need be, that attorney's going to be at your side within 2 hours. Whether you're home, hospital, the police station, wherever it might be, the scene of the incident. And they're going to represent you. And all the way through whatever case may develop, or hopefully they get it cut short and don't get you charged. We have no cap on what we will spend to do that, and all of our attorneys, like Oliver, specialize in the Second Amendment and self-defense cases. So you're not getting a tax attorney who needs to get some hours. You're not getting a law school graduate trying to make his way. You're getting experienced professionals who this is what they do. And most people don't plan on needing legal advice. When something happens, how many of you are going to have access to an attorney like that at 2 o'clock in the morning on a holiday weekend? With us, you do. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You heard Miss Allen. She became a defendant through a simple mistake. You've heard Oliver talk about some of the nuances of self-defense law and how you could become a defendant by doing nothing but protecting yourself. And we're here to help make sure that doesn't happen, or if it does, that we can save you from costly legal bills and time in jail. We hope that you never have to do that. We hope you're never involved in a self-defense situation. Not because we don't want to help you, but because that means you've been involved in a tragic situation. So we offer some other benefits to our members that they can take advantage of, some of which are classes like this that will educate you so you know what the law is, where the line is, what you can and can't do. We offer one on state and federal laws and how they impact your ability to carry. And we offer one on travel and what you fire, both in-state and interstate. We have tons of different classes. You can go to our website and look at it. You go all the way to the bottom to events, you click on it, it'll tell you all the classes we have offered. And we welcome anybody to come to those classes and learn more. We also have a toll-free or a non-emergency number that you can call if you have questions. If you're getting ready to travel and you're not sure what the laws are, where you're going. If you have questions about your concealed carry permit, what the self-defense laws in the state are, what you can and can't do with your firearm. We have attorneys that will answer your questions. And it's not a customer service rep that's going to Google it. It's going to be an attorney that practices law in the state you're calling about is going to answer those questions for you. And we offer a variety of coverage. You can get a plan that covers you within the state. If you travel to other states frequently, you can get a plan that will cover you in all 50 states and territories. And we don't just cover firearms. Any self-defense situation, with the caveat that if it's something that's obviously illegal for anybody to do, like toss a hand grenade at your neighbor and call it self-defense, we're not going to be able to help you because nobody can have a hand grenade. But fists, knives, frying pans, it does not have to be a firearm. And we also offer accidental discharge coverage because, believe it or not, a lot of what Oliver talked about with pulling your firearm and pointing it, there's a lot of charges you can get there, and accidental discharge can result in charges as well, especially depending on where in Pennsylvania you live. And we offer red flag law coverage. Right now, Pennsylvania doesn't have red flag laws. Maryland to our south does. And if you're not familiar with them, they're very scary because somebody can get your firearms taken away without you ever going in to see the judge beforehand. If that happens to one of our members, we offer coverage to protect them, get their firearms back, get that off your record. So we will be here. I have several of my colleagues over here in the polo shirts. We will be available walking around. We can answer any questions you have. If you're interested in signing up, we can do it in a couple of minutes. We're going to offer everybody here one free month trial. It's a 30-day trial. There is no commitment. There's never any commitment with this. It's a month-to-month program being a member of our organization. So you can drop it, you can upgrade it, you can downgrade it at any time you want to. You take advantage of the 30 days, you try it out, call the hotline, ask them some questions. Check out some of the classes, and you can do that for 30 days for free. And we have discounted rates for other adults that live in your household. So we'd be happy to talk to you about the options that fit your personal needs and how we can get you covered. And it would start immediately as soon as we sign you up. So going home tonight, you would be covered. And again, if you have any questions, see myself or one of my colleagues in the polo shirts. We'll be happy to help you.
You can invite someone. We're going to invite you to a little private get-together where we're going to do another seminar with Ms. Law Shield. I know Bob Leader's here. Where's Bob? And also his friend that offers courses. Where's he at? There he is. Steve, right? Scott could do these seminars. Scott, how many seminars have you gone to? Ballpark.
Tonight is 238.
How many? 238 seminars he's been to, so he's very well versed in U.S. Law Shield's education program. So we're going to take a short break. If we can get Janine back up, we're going to do so. So it's only going to be about 5 minutes here, folks, but if you can come on up now if you're interested, and then we're going to continue with the attorney, Oliver Crafton. So bear with us. Last call for 50/50 raffle tickets. candidates for Northampton Council, if you give them your attention here. Folks, if you can give them your attention.
Hey, everybody. This is going to be really quick and this is taking time, so just to give you a quick update of what's going on at Hampton County Council and Executive Election.
Folks, if you could just give them your attention. Thank you.
So, during the primary, everything worked out fine. Most of us were unopposed and were judged from police, which James Muller did the two Democrats and Red Cross file. So, I'm happy to say that all the Republican states passed the primary with no issue. Now, when it comes down to the general, we are going to be running all of us against five of us on the county council against the five Democrats, and there's going to be the competition, election for county executive between John Giovanni and Sarensky. It's really important for all of you, if you are available, to come and give us a hand. I was recently talking to people, to Tom and other people saying that we're going to need a lot of support and a lot of donations for anything that we can get in order to be transparency for the county executive. We have a good chance. We believe that we're going to be able to do it. We need all of the support, either money, time, knocking doors, any other way that you can support us, that would be really appreciated. It's an important election. People believe that we need to be, like we need to vote for president, for Congress, and that's the most important for us. We need to understand that that's not the most important. The local elections are the ones that affect us directly the fastest and the quickest. So we can just sit down and say, okay, we got President Trump and write a McKenzie across the finish line, that's perfect. But we need to keep going around and keep voting on these elections, get people out, support your candidates. It's extremely important. Whatever happens on the federal government will affect us eventually. Whatever happens on the county government will affect you right away. If you're in Northampton County, please reach out to any of us. I have some of my business cards, or you can even reach out to the Republican Committee office in Northampton County. They can give you more information and they can direct you on how you can give us a hand. If you're in Lehigh County, also reach out to your office because they're having their own senior election for the county council in Lehigh. Again, it's really important for everybody to stay engaged, not because we got Trump and McKenzie, because that means that we are going to the midterms. The work keeps going on and we need as much help as we can get. If you have any questions, I can answer it now or later. Alright, if you don't have anything right now, I'll be at the door or there at the exit. You can ask me questions and I'll be happy to direct you. Thank you.
Alright, we're going to actually go for another 2-3 minutes here. Again, she'll be back on, or actually will be on for repeat of her morning talk with Bobby Younger, so tomorrow 9:15. But let's hear a little bit more from Shane.
So, I know a lot of people have a couple questions, great questions. Everyone that's here, I see we got some guys that's signing up for U.S. Law Shields. Again, I cannot stress how much that is very important to sign up, your family sign up, or at least get some information and get them signed up because man, like I said, it can happen to any one of us. I just wanted to go a little bit more in depth of my story, just a little bit, because it's a lot that I can't really tell because it was a lot of corruption done in my case. So a lot of it had to be dropped because they was trying to silence me. And it's because of the handling of it, because I did everything right. I got the firearm. You know, I thought I was traveling with it the right way. people are still confused of how you travel from Philadelphia, from any other state that's surrounding us, New York, Delaware, going into New Jersey to go to the next state, not knowing that you have to separate your firearm and your ammunition and everything when you're traveling and put them in different compartments of the car. So basically, you have to tell the robber or whoever's trying to put a firearm in your face and give you a minute. Hold on, let me go get my firearm, let me get my ammunition, and put it all together. Give me a head start. It's crazy. Every time I tell somebody a story, they're like, "Are you serious? That's what I gotta do." So I've been traveling with my firearm all this time and didn't even know I'm not supposed to. I can't travel to New Jersey. I'm breaking the law. Yeah. There were no pamphlets out at any of the firearm locations where you buy a firearm from telling you that you have, it's up to you to really know the laws of your state and the surrounding states around you and the states and countries or wherever that you want to travel to. Who has time to remember all of that? Even whoever's going over don't know that. You can know every law, but still they change daily. Now there is an app called CCW on your phone that you guys could get on your phone. It tells you every state where you can carry, and they change daily and update and let you know what states you can carry in. Not sure if you guys know that, but that's a good thing to have because who knows all that? We don't know that. So I go around and I do speeches all over, wherever I can, to let people know, because I know the word is not out there. The criminals know. I'm not sure I didn't know, but they know the law more than we know the law, and we're the ones that have the right to carry it. And these laws are preventing us from going around and having our daily lives, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm definitely glad to be here because my son, and he can be a member of U.S. Law Shield. I just bought him a firearm for his 21st birthday. So, and he's been shooting since when he was 6. I started hanging out with different gun groups, and they taught my kids how to shoot, how to handle a firearm the correct way, how to prepare for if something happens in your household, where to put certain firearms at, so if someone enters your home, protect yourself. So the speaker that was up here, he was talking about how you can, the different ways and how you can act. If somebody comes in your house and try to take your TV, you can't just shoot someone for trying to take the TV property. So that was a great informative information that he told us, because my son don't know that, and I break these things down for him so that he can know. But in layman's terms, in lawyers' terms, we don't know what that stuff means. We need somebody to break it down to us. So coming to places like this is very important. Like I said, I thank you guys for having me and just listening to me. I've said my story probably over 1 billion times, and every time I say it differently. It feels different saying it and explaining it, because I know it's a family out there that's going through what I go through, because they reach out to me on Facebook every day asking me, how can I get an attorney? How much is it for your attorney that you have? I'm in the same situation you're in, and I'm in Jersey, and I'm waiting to go back to trial. What do I do? They didn't have any money saved up. I didn't have any money saved up. They're just stuck. So I try to give them the information, to try to let them know what I went through. But now my attorney, he's charging $40,000 a case or something like this, So it's like, who got that kind of money? So having a membership is definitely important. Gun cases are very hard to try in the court. They don't want to hear none of that. You heard what he said, just by going in your household and shooting someone or taking something or hurting you, you're going to do 10 years. The judge tried to give me 11 and a half for being a gun owner. That's crazy. That's a lot. That's a lot to gamble your life to not try and get a membership, so that you always got that peace of mind, and you don't have to worry about going through what I go through, not having a family, because I did not have any family support because I turned Republican. To this day, I have no family support because of my voting status. And everywhere I go, I didn't have any help when I was in jail, when I got out of jail, when it came to my children being cared for. None of that because of my voting status. It because of who was helping me. Not that I was getting help, who was helping me. And the conversation was, why are you voting for that person? Why are you supporting that person? Not, do you need me to help you with the $2,000 to help you get out of jail? So I stay correct, I stay tall, who I support, and what I do. Because I know what I want for my kids when I look at their future. And that has nothing to do with the right of carrying, because it is my right, and your right, to carry. It's just Second Amendment right. Side note, I was also arrested in Philadelphia while I was going through my case, because you are not supposed to have police contact when you are going through a case. I got pulled over 97 times in Philadelphia for driving with bumper stickers on the back of my car that says, "Not tread on my gun rights," that says "Gun Owners of America," that says U.S. law shoes, that says NRA. I had about probably 50 of them in the back. I was just making people mad at that time. But I was so upset with them. I said, you know what, I love these stickers. I put them all behind my Honda at the time. I was so proud of being a gun owner. And I'm driving around the hood of North Philadelphia, and I'm driving everywhere, and the cops hated me. So they would always pull me over after my case, because everybody knew who I was, so they were just messing with me. So I had to get another attorney to help me out pro bono. I had a guy who reached out to me and was like, yeah, we're gonna go to internal affairs about this and see, why are they pulling you over? You are a target. We have to put you in a bubble. And we went after the Philadelphia police, and they stopped messing with me eventually. I had a police officer out in Bucks County. He was a captain. He gave me a sticker to put in the back of my car. He said, you would never get pulled over again. And he gave me the sticker, and I've not gotten pulled over since. I went to the White House. I went to speak at the Capitol. I met with a bunch of different state reps and legislators. I got to be on the House floor and speak to mothers who had sons who committed crimes, or either had a child that was killed in the line of fire for guns. I had to explain to them that guns don't kill people, people kill people. And, going after someone like me for wanting to just ultimately protect me and my kids and my family, you're telling me that I don't have the right to carry, and you're going back and forth with these laws to try to not make this HR 38 national reciprocity law go through, because you're not hearing the other side of how this is all right. And I've been trying to fight for this for a long time. And I think it's going to get passed. I'm going to do everything I can to get it passed. I have been asked to run for state rep. That is something I'm considering. I will have to move. I do want to move. I would definitely consider moving to Philadelphia to Bucks and Montgomery County. I'm trying to make that happen. But for now, I'm just going to help get the word out to you guys and help you guys protect yourselves and your family by getting the insurance and the things that you guys need for the future when it comes to your family. So again, I really appreciate you guys, and I do plan to come to more meetings. Invite me out, come out if you guys are teachers or working in certain places where you think people need to hear these messages. I am open to doing that. Contact me through Andrew or through social media. My name is Shanina on all platforms. I have a lot of videos of my story. I think they have the dash cam of my arrest on YouTube. You can look me up under that as well. They started a documentary on my story and had somebody play me, and we have that on YouTube as well. It didn't get distributed the way it should have back then, because so many people wanted to work with me, and I was just trying to get out of jail. I didn't care about none of that stuff back then. but now I know the importance of it just for my kids and their future and their legacy and what they need, because I want to give informative information to people and do something with all the momentum I got. I just need help with trying to sort it out. If that makes sense.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you so much. God bless you. All right, folks, stay where you're at. We're going to have a bring all of our kids come back up, finish our program, and then we have some closing announcements, and then we're going to pull the 50-50. Okay, folks, if you give our attorney another minute or two here.
Okay, round two. One thing I want to cover, just to round out the whole legal nerdy stuff, is we talked about when we can use deadly force in defense of ourselves. What about if you're intervening on a third party's behalf? What happens if you see someone else in danger? Can you use deadly force to defend them? Good news is yes, you can. There's a couple more things in the analysis that you have to think about. One is, would that person on whose behalf you are seeking to intervene to use deadly force to protect them, would they have been justified using deadly force if they had chosen to or if they were able to? If the answer is yes, then you're good to go. Number two, would you yourself be justified in using deadly force against that attacker? If that's true, then you proceed to the analysis. Do you reasonably believe that it's immediately necessary to protect against death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape? If all of that is true, then you'd be good to go. You can defend someone illegally using deadly force in Pennsylvania, at least not yourself. The reason why you have those two additional elements is kind of interesting. I want you to think about Joe Biden. I know, I don't really like that guy here. Think about Joe Biden and a clone of Joe Biden. They're fighting each other, right? They're very frail, elderly men, okay? And what might count as a deadly force or a risk of serious bodily injury between them might not necessarily be true if I was fighting Joe Biden, hands and fists, right? So if you see two elderly old men fighting each other and really doing it out and beating each other up to a pulp, and you might think there might be some risk of death and serious bodily injury going on right there, this is where you'd be thinking about, okay, well, would the one person who's being beaten up, who's very frail and elderly, would they be justified using deadly force to repel that immediate threat to their life or serious bodily injury? Perhaps yes. But what about you yourself? You are young and strong, you're 200 pounds of pure muscle, not necessarily me, but like, think about that. If there's that kind of differential, then you would be looking at, okay, well, would you yourself be justified using deadly force against that frail old man who's beating the other frail old man? And that's where you'd be running into the issue, well, maybe that person doesn't pose a immediate risk of death, serious bodily injury, kidnapping, or rape to you. So that's where that analysis would sort of fail. In that kind of situation, you'd probably just be pulling them apart and you wouldn't have to be using any kind of deadly force because they're just a very easy victim for you, or not so much victim, but an easy task. It's a really discretion to be the better part of valor in that case. But there we go. It's the use of deadly force in self-defense. We have that reasonable belief in these four threat categories, not property. One thing that I think I heard during the prior speaker was this idea of like, okay, someone broke into your house and like they're trying to carry away your TV, and it's this idea of using deadly force to defend your property. I just wanted to qualify one additional thing, which was if someone does actually break into your house, for this castle doctrine idea, right? If they have unlawful and forcible entry, you would be presumed reasonable to have used deadly force to repel that person, not only if they're actively trying to enter, but they already have been entry in. Now, you could run into the issue of like, well, are you shooting them in the back? Okay, that's how you lose your presumption, but there are ways of kind of dealing with that legally, and so there could be some ways where you'd be able to do that. I'm not advocating for you to shoot anybody, but of course, there might be ways where the law would presume that you have to reasonably sort of that way. So having already taken care of those final sort of items, I think we might have some time for Q&A, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just stick the dynamite, they have a problem.
I think we have to wait for the mic, right? Yeah.
Folks, wait for the mics. We have two of our board members that are going to walk those mics around. We have 5 minutes to do this.
When you're a victim of a crime and you're transported to the hospital, on the way to the hospital or at the hospital, if you convey any information about the incident, can you be liable for third-party hearsay?
Could you repeat the very third-party?
The third-party hearsay. If you're telling someone else and the law enforcement go after them to say, this is what I heard, can you be prosecuted?
So that's, well, you wouldn't be necessarily prosecuted for a statement, but there could be some ways that your statements would be admissible, and that kind of gets into the law of evidence. What would be the exceptions to the general rule against hearsay? The reason why we say that anything you say can only be used against in a court of law is there is an exception to the general rule against hearsay, which is an opposing party statement. And if you're being prosecuted, you're the opposing party to the state, so they would be able to admit certain statements that you make. If it's being filtered through another layer, so if it's another person who would be like hearsay upon hearsay, so then you'd be looking for some other exception, like, I don't know, present sense impression or things of that nature. I would, without getting into like a really convoluted like bar exam essay sort of answer, I would not be telling anybody anything other than your lawyer. If they're not your lawyer, I would just lawyer up and shut up, and it doesn't matter how nicely they're asking and how much they kind of guilt trip you, because what cops will often do in this kind of situation, it sort of makes sense, right, from their perspective. They're going to say, look, if you're such a good guy, if this story's checking out, you're going to want to help me. You're going to want to say something. They might even threaten you with charges if you don't cooperate. They can do a whole lot of things. Doesn't matter. I would preserve your rights. Just lawyer up and shut up and don't get yourself in deeper. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But right now, you're trying to preserve as much of a case for you as possible without really nuking it for your attorney. So, hope that answers. Yes?
Hi, my name is Cindy O'Brien, and I have two questions for you. First of all, can you give us the statistics, the national statistics, and maybe the statistics for the state of Pennsylvania on how many encounters people have, you know, like where they're using legal force? How successful are they in using legal force? What percentage, of people are successful in defending themselves using legal force? That's my first question.
So I don't have the latest stats handy. What I can tell you is it's severely underreported, because what a lot of times happens is somebody might pull that gun and somebody might run away, and no police, no 911 is called, and there's simply no way for that to be recorded as a successful use of force incident or a defensive force incident rather. I've heard some stat, and there's such inaccuracy in the reporting because you have all these things that might be slipping through the cracks, where I think last I heard that it might be on the order of a couple million a year or something to that effect. But I don't think there's any way of accurately being able to say, but it does happen. It happens rather frequently when you think about all the cities in the U.S. and all the possible crimes that can be getting charged and the growing number of people that are carrying publicly. There's a recent study, and don't quote me on this, it might be by John Lott, who is a rather frequently cited sort of pro-gun voice in the stats realm. But I think there's a recent study from the past couple of months that stands for the proposition that when a citizen deploys a firearm to defend themselves in public, they are generally more effective at stopping the threat than police. And there's a couple of reasons why, and if I could just speculate, and I might be correct on something, I might be incorrect on others. I think an important aspect as to why a citizen might be more successful at or in stopping a threat with fewer shots, let's say, is that they have sort of the element of surprise. They're carrying concealed, they're not wearing a uniform that kind of makes them a threat and clues perpetrators in that they would be armed. That's one, you put the element of surprise. And secondly, it's sort of this practical idea that when we are carrying and we're just private individuals, there's a lot more on the line. We're not police officers that are entitled to qualified immunity, where literally we can do pretty much anything, and so long as there isn't a case that's already on the book with almost an identical fact pattern, it's not like a clearly established right under the Supreme Court's current precedent. It's really like just insane stuff. So there are ways for the cops to limit their own liability for shooting off a bunch. Like, I think everybody has seen body cam footage where they're just dumping their mags, and they don't really necessarily care so much where the rounds are going because they don't have that kind of liability they have to worry about. But if we dump rounds in public, what are we looking at? A lawyer attached to every bullet, firing into an occupied structure. If you miss your person and you hit like an occupied building, that's a felony. That's like really tough stuff. So I think just out of sheer necessity, citizens might be a little bit more effective at stopping a threat. But I wouldn't have the current stats handy. So that answers at least number one for you.
Okay, so my next question is, I travel a great deal on my own. So I just recently drove back and forth to and from Tennessee, and I was right, because I have my daughter, right? And I met my family in Tennessee. Anyway, the point of the question is, what type of self-defense would you recommend for a woman traveling alone? You know, 'cause I actually ended up feeling perfectly safe. I brought a mace with me. I never even had to take it out of the package. That's how safe I felt. But what would you recommend to women, you know, traveling alone?
It's a good question, and I think it's a very personal sort of individual one. My gut instinct would always be to advocate for having a handgun on you and having one that you feel comfortable shooting and one that you can manage the recoil for and one that's suited to your stature, your ergonomics, and your comfort with recoil, things of that nature. I would personally shy away from advising women, at least in my life, to be carrying pepper spray or less lethals like that, simply because although they can be effective, you have to really train with them anyway. It's not like you can just have it, and this is also true for firearms. Like I wouldn't say like you can just have that firearm and all of a sudden it's a crutch and you can just deploy it and you're good to go. You still have to be very, very familiar with it, train well with it, be accurate with it, know kind of where your shots are aiming, all that. The thing with pepper spray that I've noticed is a lot of people like don't have this intuitive knowledge of how to even operate it. It's like if you're going to carry something, I think you should like pull it out and try to go through the motion of actually using it and be familiar like, oh, I have to pull this thing, I have to do that. If you are relying on it operating the very first time you need it when you're actually in the heat of the situation, that's, I think, kind of a training failure and it's like a tactical disadvantage because you're probably fumbling a lot. So I would say get a small handgun. I recently bought, just for my own personal sort of satisfaction, a Smith & Wesson 380 Easy Performance Center or something, and I found the recoil that to be absolutely lovely. It's just hilarious, and it's a gold barrel. It's just really a fun piece of bling. I think that would probably be a really easy shooter. It's a fairly big gun, so it swallows recoil pretty well. But I would err on the side of having a handgun, but being very, very familiar and getting a lot of training with that. Yeah.
Thanks, Oliver, for your information. It's great stuff. Just going back to your original situation. Guy comes with a knife, says, give me all you got, and you have your gun. Are you justified in shooting that guy?
So if we run through the analysis, he's wielding a knife at you, right? So that would be a use of deadly force on his part under the appellate cases that we have. Now, would you reasonably believe that it's immediately necessary to prevent against death or serious bodily injury? I think the factual analysis, because really at the end of the day it's all factual, and this is something that the finder of fact have to be grappling with, is, well, if they have that knife, are they on top of you? Are they very close by? With a simple lunge, would they be able to hit you? Something of that nature. There's something that I didn't cover, which I usually do on the longer seminars, which is this idea of like a 21-foot guideline. It's not so much a rule, it's not like a legal principle that's cited in court, but it's this idea of if someone's coming at you on a sprint and they have some kind of a knife or a bladed weapon, something like that, the general rule of assault, just averaging things out, is that once they hit within 21 feet of you, they're at like a full tilt sprint, they're like really intending to get on top of you. Within 21 feet, they're probably going to be on you by the time you pull that gun and get back or a shot. So there's a little bit of a closeness in space analysis that's going on here. I think under our facts, if you really close it on you to the point where he's able to say something and he's within a couple feet, that would be use of deadly force on his part. If you reasonably believe it's immediately necessary, and again, it's kind of a factual thing, I think you'd be good to go. Not, of course, going to officially advise to shoot anybody, but I think you would be able to have very strong, articulable justification defense of those facts. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. Yes. Recently on a homeowner's app they asked if we had any weapons in the house. And I said, do you really need to answer that? Because I know they're kind of covering themselves, but I thought, what happens if you say no, you do have weapons?
This is a homeowner's app, you said?
Well, what we were doing is we were doing a trust. Okay. And one of the things that came up is how many weapons you have in your home. And I thought, well, why would they want to know that?
Unless we're talking about like disclosing things for insurance purposes, I
never saw that before.
I would keep that private, and you're very straightforward answer because you can say no then, and maybe you got a gun the next day, and they didn't ask you the next day, so yeah, I would usually keep those things private. I'll tell everybody here I have guns and trust, but I didn't say that, and you certainly have to be involved in that kind of information to others.
All right, last question here.
Terry,
All right, so I got a quick one and then an additional one. I've heard of different opinions on this. If somebody breaks into your house and you first, is it better to injure them or finish the job? It's well, the logic being that they then tell no tales. So you can't have some, it's the job, they can't come to court and testify against you.
True. They can't come to court and testify against you, but if they are dead, you could be possibly charged with far more serious crimes than just the, rather than the attempt liability or the bullet action type liability.
If you carry a stick of dynamite, would they have that rather than a handgun?
Well,
How about that?
a stick of dynamite would be a Section 908 prohibited offensive weapon here in Pennsylvania, and you probably wouldn't be able to show NFA compliance, so you get hit with that charge. So the issue with like shooting to injure as opposed to shooting to kill is, and this is not legal advice so much as me just reiterating what I've heard from like tactical trainers and all that, which is you should. I think it would be more wise to shoot until the threat is no longer a threat. And if they are truly no longer a threat and they are still moving, at that point I would not be shooting them any further. So you also get this idea of, well, like reaction times, there's actually a lot of science going into that, which is like how soon you perceive they're no longer a threat, and you have to go through the whole brain wiring of stopping shooting. So you could run into those sorts of issues. It could be,
So my more important question is, say somebody broke into your house, you shot him, but, this kid's mom was sleeping with the chief of police, and you got convicted anyway. Do you guys have any help for people that were that were on the wrong end of a self-defense situation and ended up, like you were saying earlier, having a bad day in court and got screwed? You guys, is there anything you can do to help people sort of?
So the coverage doesn't just end a trial, it also extends to appeal. So if you have a bad day in court and but here's the problem with appealing things. Usually on appeal, especially for criminal convictions, it's a highly deferential standard of review to the trial court, because the appellate judges, when they're hearing an appeal from a criminal conviction, they're not the ones that have the eyes and the ears in the courtroom. They're not the ones that heard the evidence. They're reading a record on a piece of paper. So they are going to be highly deferential to the sorts of credibility assessments that the judge made when he was able to see live testimony, see whether someone appeared to be truthful. There's a lot of kind of minutia that happens sort of in a courtroom that you won't be able to really replicate on appeal. So I don't have a stat handy, but I think that given the deferential nature to trial court assessments in criminal cases, it would be you want to have an attorney that makes as good of a record as possible at the trial level, so that you have the best of the case possibly in reversing a bad day on appeal. But would it be covered? Yes, but is really a lot of stuff hanging on how good of a trial presentation you have also. Yes. So yeah, that's I got for you.
Okay, that's it for now. We're going to set up another opportunity for you to be in a more intimate group. So we're going to do it at a pizzeria. So we'll send out an email. U.S. Lawship's going to be an ongoing sponsor with us. So let's give them a round of applause. Final announcements. I'm going to let Valerie grab the mic first, so please stay. We just need 5 more minutes of your time.
Don't forget to clean your table. This is your mother talking.
All right, upcoming meetings and events. For those of you who play golf, we have the Lehigh County Republican Committee having a get-together. I believe that's next Saturday to play golf. And they also have, if you don't want to play golf, they just have a reception afterwards. So take a picture of that if you're interested in attending. Going once, twice. I asked Donald Trump one time when I met him that one time, I said, what would it mean to be a good golfer? He says, a caddy. I said, I drive a Kia Soul. What's the difference? All right, Tom Giovanni's having an event at a nice restaurant called Taste of Italy in Hellertown. If you're able and willing to attend, please consider that. First County Patriots, they're having their get-together on Thursday, June 19th.
Next up, this is the PA Family Institute, and it says here in English, a clear voice in a time of confusion. Okay, so this is going to be on Tuesday, June 24, 2025, and see it from this angle. Wait a minute, I can't see it from this angle either. But anyway, this is a gentleman that is well versed with the Argentinian politics, which is improving. Next one, let's see here, Gals and Guns, and that's Thursday, July 24th. If you're interested, go see Steve in the back. He's still there standing up. So that's Gals and Guns. Our next meeting will be Thursday, July 3rd, the day before Independence Day. Not the 4th of July, Independence Day. Our 50-50 drawing, Mr. Tom, could you tell us what our jackpot is this evening?
Thank you, Andrew. Tonight, we collected $310, and that means the winner will be getting $155. And my brother Dave will be picking the ticket. He's the first time attendee here. And the winning number is 0112450. 0112450. Oh, we have a winner. Thank you very much. There it is. Congratulations.
Don't let Andrew know. Okay, folks, closing remarks. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Shanine, and congratulations to her son graduating tomorrow. Quick closing prayer. Thank you to you as well for sponsoring us and bringing the peace of Heavenly Father. We thank you for President Trump, whose birthday is coming up soon, for the U.S. Army, who's celebrating their birthday, and for Flag Day. God, we ask you to keep President Trump safe and sound, and continue to put the right people in his place. We pray for all of those who have lost their loved ones within the Tea Party, and for all of those who their families and friends are ill at this time. Help them to deal with their current situations, and we ask you, Lord, to guide us all home safe and sound. Amen. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless each and every one of you. We'll still up here if you have any questions or concerns. And when Janine has that book out, we're going to vote.